No one could have imagined that when an obscure military officer named Hugo Chavez led an unsuccessful coup attempt against Venezuela's government in 1992, he would end up becoming one of his country's most influential and controversial leaders. Chavez was an idealist and a man of great ambition. After he was released from prison in 1994, he formed a political movement and set out to take power through the ballot box.
Juro delante de Dios. Juro delante de la patria.
He was elected president in 1998, vowing to bring about what he called a Bolivarian revolution, named after Venezuela's national liberation hero, Simón Bolívar. His message resonated amongst millions of impoverished Venezuelans, tired of decades of marginalization and corruption that deprived them of the benefits of their country's vast oil wealth. Chavez implemented social programs for the poor, including literacy campaigns and health centers manned mainly by Cuban doctors in the country's slums. He also wrote a new constitution, considered enlightened at the time, but which gave more power to the president and the military. Chavez's controversial style and his close friendship with Cuba's Fidel Castro quickly put him on a collision course with the upper and middle classes, which he referred to as the oligarchy. When the opposition tried and failed to overthrow Chavez in a botched military coup attempt in 2002, the scene was set for an all-out political confrontation. Chavez survived recall referendums and a lockout strike by the management of the state-run oil company. Still wildly popular, he was re-elected in 2000 and 2006. But with each passing year, his reforms became more radical. He declared a socialist revolution and began expropriating land, banks, and some key private industries, as well as refusing licenses to his fiercest media critics. And despite the government's huge income from high oil prices, housing shortages, crime, power blackouts, inflation, and widespread corruption began to eat away at his popularity. Chavez's anti-American discourse raised alarm bells in Washington, too. His oil diplomacy, consisting of selling oil to poor Central American and Caribbean countries at low rates, did win him friends and influence in the region. He formed a strong alliance called ALBA with like-minded leftist leaders in Ecuador, Nicaragua, Bolivia, and Cuba. But Chavez's dream of spreading his Bolivarian revolution throughout Latin America began to lose steam as his problems at home increased. In late 2010, his Socialist Party lost its two-thirds control of the National Assembly. Chavez was fighting to win back support ahead of the 2012 presidential elections, when he suddenly fell ill and was forced to undergo surgery in Cuba. Ironically, he had so often gone there to sit by the bedside of his ailing friend and mentor, Fidel Castro. It was Castro who gave him the bad news, that the diagnosis was cancer. Despite his serious illness, Chavez continued working and was re-elected last October for 6 more years. After a 4th operation, followed by a 10-week absence in Cuba, he returned to his beloved Venezuela on February the 18th. He had vowed to win the battle against cancer, just as he had overcome other adversities. But it was a promise he was unable to fulfill. Hugo Chavez's premature death comes as a shock, both to his strongest supporters and his staunchest foes. The question now is how much of the Bolivarian revolution will survive without Chavez's larger-than-life persona. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, Caracas.